Well, hey folks, it's John with Ozarks Backroads with you today. We're in the Ozarks Backroads garage. I'm finally getting started doing the maintenance on the bikes for the winter service on them. And we've got the Tiger 800 here up on the blocks today. I've never had the tank up, looked at the top of the engine or anything on this bike since I bought it. So I'm gonna get the tank up on it. We'll take a look at the spark plugs, probably throw an air filter in it. And I imagine I'll check the throttle body sync while I'm in there. Check all the hoses, make sure everything's tight and like it should be, and then hopefully everything will be fine. I'm sure it will. We'll button it all back up and that'll pretty much be it. So I invite you all to stick around and we'll tear into this Tiger and get up close and personal. The first thing we're going to do is pull off this cover right here with the turn signal on it. And there's a screw in here that holds this right at the bottom here on the inside, and then there's a screw right here. One on the inside here. We lift this piece up and off, and then I've got these two wires right here, and they're kind of offset so you can't get them mixed up. They won't reach if you try to plug them in backwards. The wires won't reach, so that's a pretty good deal. So that's it for those. Well, we've got those off. Now the next step is to get these panels right here off. And to get these off, there's 3 screws you take loose. There's one on the inside and the back of it right here. And then there's a screw underneath the front of this panel right here. Up underneath it screws into this. Right here, my finger's on it. Take that off, and then we got one more right here. Well, I took those 3 screws out, the one on the inside and the back here, this one that you have to hold the nut on the back side, and then the one underneath right here, and the whole duck bill and all comes off. It just slides forward right off. So that's how that comes off. There is one more little cover right here we have to take off before we can raise that tank. This little shroud here on the front of the tank, there's 2 screws. I've about got them out. You can see them here. We got to remove this little panel also before we can get to the screw to release our tank. And it's got a screw right in the back of it right here that comes out, and then you just pull it straight back and it slides off of a grommet right here. This goes in a square hole. There's 2 bolts here, one on each side under the back third of the tank right here. Remove those, and then our tank will slide back and it'll be free. And we'll have a couple of hoses we have to unplug. But at that point we can raise the back end up and prop it up and access our air box. And we got that tank out of the way. You can kind of get a look at the breather box here. We'll go ahead and get into that. It just got screws around the perimeter of it all the way around. We'll take those out. These are the 2 lines that I unplugged off of the tank. Get those out of the way here. And then this is the connector that I unplugged off the top of the breather here for the air charge sensor. And you always want to be sure and unhook your battery cable, your ground cable off your battery before you unplug any sensors or anything on the bike. And then I had one other issue that I found right away when I got all this off, and that is my little fan in here, my radiator fan, wouldn't turn. It was bound up. And when I'd try to force it a little bit, I'd get a bad noise. And I got a light in there and went to looking at it, and I found that 3 little pieces of gravel, I saved them here, had gotten in between the fan and the radiator, and they locked the fan up. Now the bike's never been hot. I always watch leave it on the temperature, the coolant temperature. I always leave that up on the display, and it's never gotten hot, but I don't know how long that fan's been locked up. So that's something I'm gonna have to keep an eye on, because I ride in a lot of gravel. Apparently it's thrown it up off of the front tire there and got it up in behind the radiator, bounced it up in there and got it in the fan. Looks like in order to get the filter out of there, we got 2 screws. Got one here and one over here. couple of Phillips head screws. So we'll get those out and then get that filter out of the way. Looks like we've got a bolt down here we need to remove. 8mm head on it. And then there's these screws that hold these air horns on. And those hold the lower part of the breather housing down. So we got to remove these screws, these horns, and then this breather will come off. Well, we've got our air box off here. We're going to go ahead and take a look at these spark plugs. I had to remove this pipe here, or this hose, off of these two nipples to allow me to unplug the coils here. We just pinch down right on the top, and that connector will come right off of each one of these coils like a yay. And then to get the coils off, just give them a little twist and kind of pull up as you twist. Pull them up off of the plug, and then they'll come right up out of there. I'm going to look in the end, make sure that there's no rust or rusty looking stuff in there where it's been burnt. That's not, those look brand new. And I've got a little tape here wrapped around the edge of my socket, so I'll have to press that onto the spark plug to get a hold of it good, and it won't fall off. Wasn't too tight. There we go. We got all our plugs out and they all look the same. We've got good color on them, no deposits. Everything's looking pretty good here. I'm checking the gap here between these. It's supposed to be about 28, and that's what we're getting here. Some of them are a little snug, but I'd say 28's pretty close on all of them. I think we're good on the plugs. They've only got 5,000 miles on them, so these will go at least till 10. We'll check them again. All right, we'll put these back in and plug this stuff back up, and then we'll move along. We'll get our last plug back in it here. And you want to always be sure and run these down all the way by hand till you feel them hit bottom. Screw them all the way down. If you can't screw them all the way down by hand, something's not right. Then when they hit bottom, just give them a little, you don't need to go crazy. A little snudge there. That's all you need to do. Now on these coils, they are a little bit difficult to get back on. You really have to push down on them to get them to snap down on the top of the plug like they should be. And you'll feel the little ridges as it goes down. There it is, it's bottomed out. It's important to get those all the way on so you don't start burning the connector there in the end of the coil. You want to make sure it's down on the plug good. Check these other ones again. There's an issue that I've ran into with checking the throttle body sync on this bike. Real easy to get to these, the backs of these throttle bodies. To hook your vacuum hoses up on the throttle bodies, on the gauges to check them. The issue with this bike is there's no ports to hook up to. The manual says to use the diagnostic tool, the Triumph diagnostic tool, and look at the vacuum on that on the computer rather than using a gauge set. And then if they need to be adjusted, adjust them by using the vacuum off of the computer. It's able to tell when it gets the vacuum pulses, it knows which cylinder the pulse is, and the computer will tell you what the vacuum is for each one of these. So you just use the computer. So in order to do that, I need to get a ECU tune software, Tune ECU, I believe, is what they recommended. And then you just get an OBD2 to USB cable to plug into your computer and plug it into the OBD2 connector here on the bike. And then you can look at everything that way. But the issue there is the software is $900 just for the software to do that. So I really don't think I'm going to do that unless I run into some sort of issue in the future where I need the computer to diagnose a problem or something, I probably just won't mess with it. It runs too good. I'm sure the throttle body syncs fine on it. So at this point, anyhow, we'll see what happens in the future. But for now, we're just going to skip that and go on. So our plugs are looking good. I've kind of looked over all of the coolant hoses down under here and checked all the connections, and everything's looking good. There's no leaks or anything. The clamps are on like they should be. So I'll probably just button this back up and put a new air filter back in it, and that'll pretty much be it on the servicing here. I need to get my oil changed, but yeah, so we'll put this back together and we'll call that good. Folks, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and doing a little maintenance on the Tiger 800 here. Didn't really run into anything that I wasn't expecting other than the rocks in the fan. That'll be something I'll have to keep an eye on. I may try to find a fender extender for that front fender. Drop down a little farther there and catch those rocks from flipping up in there. Maybe that'll fix that. I didn't get to do the throttle body sync. I don't have the software to do that, so that'll probably be for another day. But I appreciate y'all sticking around and invite you to come back. We'll do some other things. Till I catch up with you again, y'all take care of yourselves and we'll catch you later.